Now, the band that got me into the scene of underground, or like punk-influenced rock, is the band The Velvet Underground. I know what you're thinking. It's kind of a widely known band, but they're kind of notorious for their experimental style and paved the way for so many rock and punk-influenced rock. After hearing them, I actually got their CD from the library, the Andy Warhol, The Velvet Underground and Nico. You can look up the image, but it's kind of a famous image. I really started to listen to more obscure kind of bands, and like I heard their sounds and I was interested, so I did my research and see similar artists that might be into them, and then I like, it kind of got me into more popular punk rock like The Clash, The Ramones, Dead Kennedys, Sex Pistols and stuff. But then it also kind of got me to look up more obscure kind of hardcore bands like Touche Amore, Sinking Ships, Gorilla Biscuits, Verse, Comeback Kid and stuff. So I would really say the band that really got me into that style from the beginning is The Velvet Underground.
The first band, or first any type of music I ever listened to was Sum 41. And that's because my dad listened to them and he showed them to me and my brother when I was I want to say 5 or 6. We listened to All Killer No Filler, and one of the first songs was first songs I remember are Rhythms and Fat Lip and Nothing on My Back and stuff like that. So and then from there I just kind of listened to it more and more, and then the first song I bought on iTunes was actually the Green Day version of I Fought the Law. So then the first band I ever listened to that had some screaming in it was Hawthorne Heights. And from Hawthorne Heights, that transitioned into Silverstein, which I started listening to Silverstein in first grade, second grade, and then from there that just transitioned into everything else. So yeah.
So the first time I got into punk music, I was watching Kerrang!, which is a music channel, and American Idiot by Green Day came on, and I just thought it sounded awesome, really energetic, really powerful, and it was also a bit of a change hearing somebody voice such strong opinions in a song. The stuff I listened to before that usually consisted of, sort of metaphors or stories, but yeah, it was very sort of empowering, if that's the right word I want to use. I don't know, to just hear that kind of thing. And the first gig I ever went to was actually a Green Day gig. It was where I got this shirt. It was the one they were going to film for the DVD they made, Bullet in a Bible. And it was just amazing. It was like a massive arena. Yeah, I went there with a load of my friends and my mum, and then I just ended up losing everyone, but I didn't really care, and so I just ended up in a mosh pit, and yeah, it was an amazing gig. I'm glad it was my first gig. And liking Green Day got me into other sort of pop punk kind of bands, like Sum 41 and Take 'Em Out Sunday and Billy Talent. And they're some of my favourite bands to listen to now, and a recent band I've been getting really into is The Living End, and I think Billy Joe, one of The Living End's albums were released through Billy Joe's record label, I think, or something. I heard something like that. But yeah, no, The Living End is just a really awesome punk band that I think everyone should listen to.
Hey guys, my name is Josh Branch, and the first underground punk band that I got into was Bayside. I remember asking my friend Kendall to burn me a CD when we were 16, and one of the bands that was on that CD was Bayside. And they stuck out to me the most, and I didn't even know the name of the band, and I didn't know it until he asked me to go to one of their shows, and when I went to the shows it just blew me away, and I had to get involved in them more, and sure enough I did, and they become my favorite band, so much so that I got their logo tattooed on my arm. They opened the door for me for bands like Set Your Goals, A Day to Remember, 4 Years Strong, Brand New, A Loss for Words. There's a ton of new bands and got me into the punk scene a little bit. Bayside inspired me to create my own music and start my own YouTube channel, which is Shroomage34.
The first underground band I got into was Hawthorne Heights, and this wasn't about the first grade, so I know they're not very underground, but for a first grader, when I heard those screams, oh my gosh, yes, those were for me. I knew it from that point. Story of the Year was next, and it just took off. But from there on out, the first punk band I got into was Blink-182, and I know they're not super punk, but I got into them so early, like before I was even 1 year old. My dad got their first album, and I was hooked as like a toddler to Blink-182. And Blink, the one thing about Blink is that it opens the doors to so many genres that you might have not tried if you hadn't listened to Blink-182. I don't know if this is true for other people, but for me, I feel like that's true. I feel like I try new music because almost I listen to Blink-182. I want to try it. I'm hooked for more music.
So the one band that got me into punk underground music would have to be the band NoFX. Now, how I got into them is a little strange, but back in the day, I used to get these like t-shirt catalogs, and they would have all these band t-shirts, and I would always see the name NoFX, and I always thought, that's kind of interesting. So one day I decided to go and pick up one of their albums. The one that stood out from the rest was Heavy Petting Zoo. Now, while people say this is their most experimental album, I think it sounds just as good as their catalog and whatnot. But this one caught my eye, obviously, because of the cover. But what really stood out to me was their music. What I loved about this band was how up-tempo, fast, aggressive, melodic this band was at the same time. I mean, I hadn't heard anything sound like them, and it pretty much changed the way I listened to music. After this band and this album, all I wanted to hear was music that sounded like them. And this band pretty much got me into, all the skate punk bands from the late 90s to the early 2000s, bands like No Use for a Name, Pennywise, Voodoo Glow Skulls, Lagwagon, High Standard, Strung Out, Face to Face, Blink-182, MXPX, and so forth. So, this band and this album pretty much changed my music life.
Hey everybody, Fro here, and today I'm here to talk about the first band that I ever got into. If you've looked at my channel and you listen to the music that I put in basically every video, you guys know that I'm a huge pop punk fan. The first band I ever got into was Fall Out Boy. Now, before you say anything or start with the judging, I'm just gonna point this out. If you like pop punk music, if you're a fan of pop punk music, it's impossible for you to not like Fall Out Boy. My favorite record ever released is Take This to Your Grave. It is flawless. The only record, this is records in general, the only record that compares is The Wonder Years, The Upsides, but Take This to Your Grave is still on top. Every song on Take This to Your Grave is perfectly written. It's got the perfect combination of guitars, dual harmony vocals, and drums. Andy Hurley is one of my favorite drummers of all time, and definitely one of the main reasons I like Fall Out Boy, also because of Patrick's voice.
Okay, so I kind of have two bands that sort of got me into punk. The first one is probably one that everybody listened to, is Green Day. And they actually got me into music in general, because before I listened to Green Day, I listened to basically nothing, or just, shit that was on the radio, and they got me into, the basic Sex Pistols, Clash, NoFX, Bad Religion, Rancid, all that stuff. And then I discovered the Ataris, and the Ataris they're the band that got me way more into, not as well known sort of punk stuff, like the Descendants, All, the Misfits, Cro-Mags, Black Flag, Jawbreaker, all that stuff. They also got me into stuff like that isn't considered punk, like the Smiths, Echo and the Bunnymen, stuff like that. And I think that's how you used to, well, now you've got the internet, but before we had the internet, or not as many people had the internet, you looked at your favourite band's thanks list.
probably most of you kids don't know what the hell it is. It says, you know, we thank all of these bands because they influenced us or they toured with us, and you look at it and you're like, wow, who are these bands? I gotta check them out. And that's how I found out about punk and stuff, because I'm old. And if you have not listened to any of the bands that I just mentioned, the fuck have you been doing your whole life? Check them out.
Hey guys, you heard our first underground punk band. Now we want to know what your first underground punk band you guys got into. Please guys, leave a comments below or make a video response. And thanks everybody for contributing to this video, and hopefully we'll have another collab in the future.